Hi guys, Rachel here. How is everyone? So I thought I'd pop on here real quick and do a Gothlit November update. I know I'm pretty behind, but I assure you I have been having a blast with Gothlit November this year, and I have really loved watching the VRs. Yeah, I've been having a blast. And sorry. So I just got off the phone with my mom and just recovering from that. No, it was a really great phone call, actually. But I thought I would pop on here and record. So yeah, life has been very trying, but I think somehow in some strange way, Gothic literature is just really helping me through it. Because let's be honest. I'm sure a lot of you can relate. Sometimes our own lives sort of mirror a Gothic novel. So I'm going to flip through this fun Life magazine special edition that I got from my daughter a couple of years ago. She loves vampires. Because why not? Yeah, this is just lovely. So I have a little book haul, and then I'm going to go over some of the books that I've read so far. Yeah, I love this. Fuseli. So Mary Shelley's mother was in love with this painter, and there's a really interesting story about that, but I won't get into it now because I don't want this to be like an hour long. Anyway, my plan is to just do sort of an update on what I've read, and I won't go too much in depth because I plan on doing another video, or maybe even two, I'm not sure. My daughter said that she wants to participate in the video herself. She's been reading up a storm. I'm not going to talk too much about what she's read. I'll save that for the video. If she still decides that she's going to do it, we'll see. But she's currently reading Dorian Gray and absolutely loving it. Oh, Bela Lugosi. I mean, look at him. Is there anyone cooler? Oh my gosh, I just love him. So yeah, we've both been reading books and watching a lot of films. We were thinking about watching a movie tonight, but she got involved in some research for this novel she's writing. And I was on the phone with my mom for quite a while too. But yeah, Christopher Lee, so much fun. My daughter really likes the Christopher Lee films too. She hasn't seen all of them because some of them are still a little inappropriate, but we've been doing a deep dive this year with the Frankenstein films, which I probably won't get into too much because I'm sure that we'll be talking about that in the video. But anyway, our plan is to continue on with Gothic literature and studies. Oh, the Count. I love him. Throughout the holiday season. So I'm not sure when you'll see another video relating to Gothlit November, if it's going to be in a week or if it's going to be after Christmas. I'm not sure. And I also plan on doing a fall wrap up. I know it's silly, it's like mid-December, but I still want to do it. Yeah, I have my little doll here keeping me company today. My little Dame Darcy doll. I love her. She reminds me so much of my sister. And a little nesting doll that I've had for years. Anyway, little creatures of comfort. So let's get into, okay, I'll start with the book haul. So my daughter and I went to our local bookstore yesterday, and she picked up The Secret Garden. She really loves this series, Chiltern books. We usually pick them up in Salem at this store that we enjoy, Emporium 33, but they had it at the local bookstore. And she asked me, she's like, Mom, is The Secret Garden Gothic? And I'm like, you know, it's really funny that you say that, because I have thought of this movie, one of the various film depictions, more than once in recent weeks. If I read the novel when I was younger, I don't remember. But there's this one film version in particular, which I absolutely love. It's from the 90s. It's beautiful. And if you ask me, it seems very Gothic. I mean, there's this huge manor, and, you know, Mary hears this screaming and howling at night, and she doesn't know what it is. Sort of reminds you of Jane Eyre, right? There's the uncle who's haunted by grief, and I think it's, yeah, I told her, I'm like, you know what? I think it's pretty Gothic. But anyway, she wanted to pick it up, and she might read this soon. She also picked up The Moonstone by Wilkie Collins. That's fun. I haven't read this. And this one she found in the YA section, Stalking Jack the Ripper. Does anybody know anything about this? I don't know. I'm sure if I looked it up, there's probably like mixed views on this, but there's that. She just recently read a giant book on, what is it called? I forget what it's called, but it's all about the murder craze in the Victorian age. So, yeah. I picked up this little paperback copy of The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. Isn't this cute? And this Norton Critical Edition of Heart of Darkness, which is funny because I had all these books in my arms, and my daughter and I were looking at the classics section, and she's like, Mom, can I read Heart of Darkness? Is that Gothic? And I'm like, I showed her this. I'm like, did you know that? She's like, I didn't even know you had that in your arms. I'm like, I don't know if you would understand this yet, but it's funny because if you watched my recent book wrap-up video, you'll know that I had reread this recently. And after reading it, I was thinking about it, and I'm like, I think that there's a lot of Gothic elements to this novel. I never would have categorized it as Gothic in the past. But then I was, you know, reading the Cambridge Companion to Gothic Literature, and Heart of Darkness was actually mentioned in there. So anyway, I just picked this up, not for Gothlit November, but because I wanted the Norton Critical Edition, because there's all sorts of essays in here and annotations. And it's a favorite of mine. I had some more Herman Melville. Now, Benito Cereno was one that I wanted to read for Gothlit November. Nicole over at A Cottage Witch recently read this. It deals with a bloody slave revolt on a Spanish vessel. A splendid parable of man's struggle against the forces of evil. So, I won't dwell on that anymore. And I also picked up this vintage hardback copy of Dr. Zhivago, which I've actually looked at this edition online, so I was thrilled to see it. I think it's the same translation that I already own, but yeah, I wanted this edition. Oh, love this novel. And then also, not part of yesterday's haul, but recent acquisitions. I got Queer Others in Victorian Gothic. It's part of the Gothic Literary Studies. Some of these books are very, very expensive. This one was more affordable. I got In the Palm of Darkness. I came across this while studying Gothic literature recently, and I thought it sounded fabulous. So I will see. I might read this month. James Welch, Winter in the Blood. I forget where I found this or heard about this. Narrated by a young Native American living on the Fort Belknap Reservation in Montana, Winter in the Blood is the unforgettable story of a man living out the tragedy of his people. So I want to say I read about it while studying Gothic literature, and it was categorized as Gothic. And I forget if it was in the Cambridge Companion or somewhere else, but I might read that soon. And then, so my daughter has to write a report, like, I guess, like a little biography. They have to read a biography on a person of their choosing. The teacher told them to choose someone they don't already know a lot about. It's a research project to choose, just work from one book. They don't have to cite from various sources. And my daughter told me that her first choice was, she was thinking about Lord Byron, and I laughed out loud, and she looked at me, and I'm like, I'm not laughing at you. I'm not laughing at you. It's more like I'm laughing at Lord Byron. And she's like, why? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know. There might be some things that you might come across that are maybe inappropriate. And she's like, oh, why is that? Because he was an adulterer. I liked how she used the word adulterer. I'm like, yeah, But anyway, she told me she wanted me to write this big list of all sorts of historical figures and authors, but she didn't really want me to go beyond the Victorian age. She said she wasn't really interested in anything beyond that time period. And I hadn't even gotten to that before she told me she thought that she wanted to write about Percy Shelley, which she knows a little bit about because we've been watching Frankenstein films and also movies about the Shelleys, Mary and Percy Shelley. And so I picked this up online. I love this cover. So I told her, I'm like, I don't know if this is going to be a very difficult read. She told me she wanted it to be difficult. She wanted it to be challenging. I mean, we'll see. She's 13 and she's really smart, but we'll see. So I'm going to read it too. Not because I'm going to write the report for her or anything, but yeah, I think, and she said, she's like, I think maybe this might tie into Gothlit November a little bit. And I'm like, yeah, I think you're right. And also picked up for her this Oxford World's Classics edition of Percy Shelley, The Major Works. We had some of his poetry lying around the house, but I thought this would be fun. It's a beautiful edition. Okay. The Autobiography of My Mother by Jamaica Kincaid. So I'm really excited to read this one too. I think I might pick this up as soon as I'm finished with the book I'm reading right now. I heard that the lead protagonist is like a female Heathcliff, and I'm like, yes, I'm here for that. So really excited about this one. So I think that's it for the book haul. Now I will talk about some of the books that I've read, but I won't get into them too much. I'm just going to maybe touch upon a few things that maybe I don't really feel like discussing when my daughter is in the room with me. So I read O Caledonia by Elspeth Parker. This I discovered through Bailey, over at Bailey Jean, Thank you, thank you, thank you, Bailey, for telling me to read this book. This was so, so beautiful. It's gorgeous. When was this written? Was this written in the 90s? I forget, but it takes place in Scotland. A 16-year-old girl, she and her family, they go to live in this drafty castle, and it's all really about the horrors of being 16, a 16-year-old girl. It's very bleak. There's some humor in it as well, but it's so beautifully written, and yeah, I really recommend it. Like, I might talk about it some more. Like I said, I'm going to do another video, but I read Joseph Sheridan Le Fanu's Uncle Silas. This also deals with the horrors and dangers of being a woman during this time. And especially if you are someone who is an heiress and people might be after your estate. Maybe they want to do away with you. And it's all about not knowing whom you can trust. And I'll say, this book is, it's very slow. Okay, so it's very slow to develop. And her character in the beginning seems, maybe a little bit one-dimensional. Honestly, I read Carmilla last year, and the lead protagonist is a young woman, and she seemed very much the same as the lead protagonist in Carmilla. But, Le Fanu, I think he did a good job of describing or depicting the horrors. And I don't want to give away any spoilers, but anyway, it's really slow, and then it really picks up. And if you get through the whole book, you can kind of understand the pacing in the first half, because it really builds atmosphere and the relationships that this young woman has with the people that she's surrounded with. So the chapters that follow it makes it all the more horrifying, scary, surreal. And yeah, it was actually, it was actually pretty scary. This was good. This was good. I would say maybe like 4 stars. This is like a 5-star book. I don't know if I'm going to remember to rate all of these, and it's hard for me to rate books. Sometimes I have to sit on them for a while. So I read this in tandem with my daughter. We have always lived in the castle. So I'm not going to talk about this very much right now, because I'll save that for when I make the video with her. But loved it. And my daughter loved it too. And this is probably a 5-star. Love Shirley Jackson. Tenebrae by Ernest G. Henham. So this book was so gothic. This is so goth, guys, okay? It has all of the gothic elements. This giant estate by the sea, and a creepy old dude mumbling to himself, and this book, I'm not sure how to rate. I would say maybe 3 stars. It was so over the top dramatic. This was written like at the end of the Victorian age, I think like in the very late 1800s. And honestly, it made me think more of like an atmosphere, like a book like The Castle of Otranto, which is known as the first Gothic novel, which was written in the mid-1700s. It has all of that Shakespearean drama. And some bits of it made me laugh out loud because it was so dramatic. Like I tabbed this here. A black shadow loomed up between my body and the sunset. It advanced rapidly, with sharp clicking sounds, as of metal upon stone, and presently resolved itself into definite shape. Then I saw a man riding hard, with back to the wind and face lowered before the driving clouds of misty rain. I stood in the center of the path and shrieked with my entire force. The beast snorted and half stopped. The rider raised his head, and I noted with pleasure his fright at the manner of interruption. You madman, would you ride over one who has done you no harm? Go back, you shall not come on. I tell you, this moor is my property. So it's like things like that that made me laugh, like just picturing some weird dude standing in the middle of the road shrieking like a beast. But I will say that if this were made into a film, it would be creepy as hell. Like, it really is. It's really creepy. He and was it his uncle? Yeah, his creepy uncle who was addicted to arsenic, making concoctions with arsenic. They had this fascination with bugs, with spiders. And there's this like hallucinatory scene where he's watching the spider crawl up the wall, and it's getting larger and larger and larger, and he knows it's going to like drop down on him and devour him, but he's paralyzed. I'm not giving anything away when I say that, by the way, because it was a hallucination. But yeah. And yeah, it's just it's fun. It's fun. I would say like maybe it's 3 stars. Okay, Richard Brautigan, The Hawkline Monster, a gothic western. So this book was so weird and so much fun. It's sort of like more of like a, I guess it's a mix of gothic and maybe a little bit of science fiction without really explaining the science behind anything. Supernatural, I guess. The time is 1902, the setting Eastern Oregon. The action begins with Magic Child, a 15-year-old Indian girl of surprising sophistication and accomplishment, wanders into the wrong whorehouse looking for the right men, the men who will kill the monster that lives in the ice caves under the basement of Miss Hawkline's cold yellow house. Okay, so I'm not going to really get into the plot because I don't want to give anything away. That's all I'll give you. But okay, I would have given this book, this would have been like maybe a 4.5 star book, maybe 4 stars. Aside from one thing that I read, which really I found disturbing. And that was because it involved an underage girl. And in the context of it, okay? It wasn't somebody being abused. It was just sort of like gratification. I'm not okay with reading about older men sleeping with a 15-year-old girl. Now, I don't really know much about Richard Brautigan. I know very little about him. I know that he's somebody that people say you should read. Some people really like him. Some people really hate him. I'll probably read more of his work. So I don't know. I guess what I'm trying to say is, was he trying to be subversive with that? I have no idea. Was it that he was being subversive, or is it just that he's just completely wrong? I have no idea. But if that hadn't been in the book, then like, yeah, this would probably be like 4.5 stars. I mean, look, one of my favorite novels is Lolita, right? And I'm not going to tell anybody to like it or hate that book. And that does deal with an underage child, but it's in a different context. It's not advocating for it, right? So, but yeah, I mean, the writing was fun and it was a funny book. Like, the dialogue is good. This guy knows how to write engaging dialogue. Very funny, very clever. And the story was clever. I don't know if it was his own original idea or if he was inspired by other writers of science fiction, or I say science fiction because it just I don't know, it just kind of has that weirdness to it. But yeah, I don't know, guys. It was so off-putting. I kept reading it. I almost put it down, but I have, my one annoying principle is to finish a book once I've started it. And I did want to read it. But yeah, I don't know. So, Russian Gothic. Okay, this was good. This is another one that is very, very dark. It's not for everybody. It's very Dostoevskian. Is that a word? Very much reminded me of Dostoevsky, like Crime and Punishment and all that. But yeah, this deals with jealousy, paranoia, driving you mad. But also you learn that the lead protagonist, I think he's a veteran. So that might have something to do with it. And he's also dealing with the grief, or maybe the inability to process the grief of the death of a child. So he becomes more and more distrustful of his wife. It's very well written. I think this was written in the 90s. And he has other books, but I don't think any of the other ones are translated, which is a shame. There might be one other book, but I would be interested in reading more of his works. Alexander Skorobgotov. It was very good. I found this, I discovered this through Nicole, again, The Cottage Witch. The Hacienda by Isabel Canas. So I'll read the back really quick. During the overthrow of the Mexican government, Beatrice's father was executed and her home destroyed. When handsome Don Rodolfo Solorzano proposes, Beatrice ignores the rumors surrounding his first wife's sudden demise, choosing instead to seize the security that his estate in the countryside provides. She will have her own home again, no matter the cost. So, yeah, creepy house that she doesn't want to sleep in at night. I'm not going to give anything away, but this was fun. This was so much fun. And also, there's a hot priest. So, need I say more? It was a lot of fun. All right, Hoffman, Tales of Hoffman. So I've read a couple of these, and I set them aside not because they were boring, but because I had other things to read. But I definitely will continue on. The one that I will mention is The Sandman. It was so good. It was so creepy. I can't believe I haven't read Hoffman before. And he had a really interesting life. So how do I describe The Sandman without giving anything away? I don't know as I can. But look it up. Look it up. I'll probably talk about this again later. I just wanted this to be like a brief update, to be like, hi guys, I'm having fun with Gothlit November. And I read The Cambridge Companion to Gothic Fiction. 5 stars. Okay. I really learned a lot. And about how, politics sort of influence the influx of Gothic novels. And quite honestly, by the end of the book, I was kind of convinced that, yeah, we're actually living in very Gothic times. So, yeah, the chapters, they're all essays written by different people. I don't remember what the table of contents is. So you have Gothic in Western culture, the genesis of Gothic fiction. This talks about, and of course you had the French Revolution, which I already knew about that. I already knew about the French Revolution being sort of the harbinger of the Romantic Age and the rise of Gothic fiction. You have 1790s, the effulgence of Gothic, French and German Gothic, the beginnings, Gothic fictions and romantic writing in Britain, Scottish and Irish Gothic, English Gothic theater, which I didn't know too much about, the theater. I did know that like Percy Shelley and Bram Stoker, I think too, like they wrote plays. Victorian Gothic and English novels and stories, the rise of American Gothic, British Gothic fiction, 1885 through 1930, the Gothic on screen, colonial and post-colonial Gothic, the Caribbean, contemporary Gothic, why we need it, and after Gothic, consumption, machines, and black holes. Yeah, very fascinating and very scary. So this was a lot of fun. And now I will just briefly mention some of the other books that I might read for this tag. We have Victorian Christmas Ghost Stories. It's a Valancourt book. My daughter and I are going to read this maybe like the week of Christmas. Anya Seton, Green Darkness. So I was thinking about reading this last year. I read another one of her books. I didn't get around to it. This is like a historical fiction work. I forget what century it's set in, if it's the 14th, 15th, or 16th century, but that's pretty cool. We have Vampires of El Norte, another book by Isabella Canas, which I'm very excited to read. I don't know if I'm pronouncing her name correctly. Vampire Hunter D, which I've been very curious about for some years now. Yeah, my sister got me these books. And we'll see if I get around to that soon. I have Tales of Terror and the Supernatural, Wilkie Collins. That could be fun. Joyce Carol Oates, Bellefleur. So this I really, really want to read. I mean, it's so long, and this is part of a series. I don't know if I will get around to it in December, but I don't know when I'm going to stop reading Gothic literature. This might even extend into January, February. I don't know, but I'm just having a blast with it. I have another Cambridge companion, The Brontes. And I have Pierre, or The Ambiguities. It's another Herman Melville work that is supposed to be Gothic, but I was honestly disappointed when I opened it up because look at this font. How am I supposed to read an entire novel in footnote size? I mean, this is insane. So I kind of want to get another copy. It's like, could I do this? Yes, but I don't know if I want to. What? Can you see how small that is? God, why? And I mean, I have a bunch of other books around the house. These are just the ones that I picked up. So I don't know. So, okay, Madwoman in the Attic. I'm still reading. I am, let's see, page 268. So I did pick this up again to read for Gothlit November. It's not that it's super taxing. It's just I keep coming across things that I haven't read yet, and I don't want spoilers. So I didn't want spoilers for Villette. So I read Villette a few months ago, not part of the Gothlit November challenge. And then I came across, right now they're talking about Wuthering Heights, which I've read a bunch of times. But they're going to get into Shirley by Charlotte Bronte. And I kind of don't want spoilers for that one either. So I decided to set this aside. And honestly, the Cambridge Companion was really more in line with what I needed for this year anyway. Not that this isn't fascinating, but I learned so much from this. I'm currently reading Frankenstein again. This is my second time reading it. This is the 1818 version. And this is this gorgeous annotated, illustrated copy, you know, with introduction and notes by Leonard Woolf. Not to be confused with the other Leonard Woolf. But this is so beautiful. And I'll see if I can show you a bit. What I find funny is the placement of this crack here. Oh my gosh. Okay, sorry. But yeah, anyway, this is beautiful. This is so beautiful. And the introduction is very good. The introduction is so good, and I think it's actually an incredibly feminist even though it was written by a man. I'm not saying that men can't, but that's refreshing. And I think this is from the 70s. I'm pretty sure. I'm not going to look up the, somebody gave this to someone as a gift in 1981. But yeah, I think this was published in the 70s. So, you know, this might not be everybody's cup of tea because the novel is here, your annotations are over here. I don't mind it. It's not the easiest thing for me to read sometimes in bed. I have to like prop it up on my knees, but it's fun. And I've actually learned a lot, and some of it has been a refresher course for me. You get a lot of background story on the life of Mary Shelley's parents and the other people in her life, and you're reminded of how tragic her life was, and also all of the traveling that she and Percy did, and the sources of influence for the novel. So let's see if I can find... So yeah, I mean, reading it that way makes for a slower read, obviously, because I'm reading all of the notes. Let's see if I can find any more these beautiful illustrations. Yeah. So yeah, we've been watching Frankenstein films. We watched 1931 and The Bride of Frankenstein. And, yeah, I mean, 1931, Boris Karloff, so iconic. It's not, you know, that truthful to the story, but damn, is it atmospheric. And it wasn't directed badly. But, yeah, there were scenes where I don't know if it was intentional or not, but you could sense, like, this tension between the classes, right? These peasants sort of being the victims of these rich landowners who had nothing better to do with their time than create life, who wreaked havoc on the people below them, you know? The ending was so stupid. But as my mom pointed out, it's like, you know, in those days, there's only so much they could get away with. But, you know, we watched the 90s version, Kenneth Branagh. My daughter loved that. We watched a couple of different movie versions, sort of semi-biopics on the Shelleys and Byron, which I had some issues with the 2017 version, which I don't know if I want to get into. It's okay to use your imagination and to sort of manipulate timelines a little bit to convey a sense of who somebody was. But when you create a new narrative, I have a problem with that. And I'm not talking about like it being a feminist film. That's not what I mean. I don't have time to talk about it. But there was this one giant like discrepancy that was included as sort of like a footnote at the end of the film. Like, you know, when a film wraps up and it's historical, they give some information at the end, you know, just text on a black screen that says like so-and-so went on to write 5 more books or something. Like, usually you take these to be actual facts, right? So when you do that and you just make something up, but the people watching the film have no idea that that's just completely false, then I have a problem with that. So, like, I mean, one of my favorite movies is Amadeus, right? And, you know, did Salieri, like, really, like, do that to Mozart and try to kill him? Probably not. But the thing is that that movie is based on a play, okay? It's a play, which there's sort of like different allowances for that. And that in turn was inspired by a work by Pushkin called Mozart and Salieri. And aside from that, it was a fantastic film. And it's not meant to, it wasn't intended to be a biopic. But what it does do is it conveys the genius of Mozart's music and who he was from what we know of him, based on the letters that he wrote and the letters he received and, other sources. Anyway, I'm going on too much. We will probably talk about some of those movies later, but I also did think that it was just flat. And the movie Rowing with the Wind from the 80s, as weird as that was, because it was kind of weird AF, it was very atmospheric. And I like that. I'm also reading, sorry for my tangent. I'm also reading Gothic literature, 1764 through 1824. This is another Gothic literary studies book. And I have another one coming in the mail, and it's Shakespearean Gothic. So excited for that. I started this just a few days ago. I already have some tabs in here. Fun. So I think I talked about everything that I wanted to cover here. Actually, no, I did not. I will show you the other two decks very briefly that I've been using. This will come as no surprise. Vampire Tarot by Robert M. Place. This is just one of the best. The book is so good. It's so good. The write-up for some of the cards, for the minors, there's not a lot, but it's really where you learn the most is the first half of the book. How he explains how, the vampire tropes work with the tarot and the fool's journey and all of that, the anima and animus. It's very interesting and you will learn a lot. This is just one of the best decks, especially if you love literature. I love Robert M. Place, and this is probably my favorite Robert M. Place deck. I had an excellent reading with this about a week ago. I just needed a pick-me-up, and it really made me feel more optimistic about things. So yeah, the Vampire Tarot by Robert M. Place. Okay, these sharp corners don't want to work with me. But I love that the corners are sharp because I think it really does suit the deck. Just one more. The Gothic Literature Tarot. This has been fun. I've probably used this one the most. I bought it as a companion piece for this year's Gothlit November. I absolutely adore the cardstock and how they feel in the hands. And I did do a walkthrough of it. I don't know if it's the best walkthrough, but it was fun. And it's been a very good reader for me. The book is fun. I refer back to it, now and then as I'm doing the readings. And yeah, the write-up for the majors is pretty good. There's some really nice journal prompt ideas too that I haven't explored, but if I had more time, I probably would. So I read cards every day, but I haven't been setting aside time for it like I used to. I've been, I spend more time reading than I do cards, which I do think that reading and learning is part of my practice too. But, yeah, I do miss having more time for more in-depth readings and journaling about them. I record my readings every day, but sometimes I'm doing it right before bed, and I'm trying to hurry up. So this has been a wonderful deck, and when I have more time, I might talk about the decks that I've been using the past couple of months more in depth. But anyway, I think that'll about do it. I hope you enjoyed, and I will be back soon. I don't know if it's going to be in a week or two, or if it's going to be after the holidays that I give you another Gothlit November video, but there will be more coming. And to all of those participating, thank you. It's been so much fun to hear all of your thoughts, and I'm glad to hear that it's meant so much to other people. All right, guys, that'll about do it. Thanks for watching. Bye.